If you traveled back to Earth 2.5 billion years ago, you would discover that the first life forms you could truly see with your own eyes actually emerged against all odds in the narrow gaps between one global ice age and the next. You punch through the atmosphere, and a blast of hot air laced with hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide slams into you. A stable ozone layer has yet to form, leaving the sun's ultraviolet radiation free to sweep across the surface. Beneath your feet, the ocean belongs to anaerobic microbes. They are Earth's original rulers, having dominated the planet for more than 1.5 billion years, completely unaware that a catastrophe capable of wiping them out is already quietly brewing in the water. You plunge into a shallow sea. Beneath your feet, cyanobacteria carpet the seafloor like a living, breathing mat, steadily releasing oxygen into the ocean and atmosphere until they help trigger a planet-wide upheaval, the Great Oxidation Event. For anaerobic life across the planet, oxygen is a poison with no antidote. Wherever it spreads, anaerobic organisms collapse in waves. After ruling Earth for more than 1 billion years, much of its ancient microbial life now faces a mass extinction. As oxygen wipes out vast populations of anaerobic life, it also begins destroying one of the atmosphere's most powerful greenhouse gases, methane. Earth's insulating blanket begins to unravel. Global temperatures plunge, the oceans start freezing from the poles, and ice sheets race toward the equator. At the peak of the Huronian Glaciation, Earth nearly freezes into a white ball from end to end. And this deep freeze lasts for roughly 300 million years. You stand on ice more than 1 kilometer thick as fierce winds howl across the surface, hurling ice grains past you. But life never shuts down. You cut through the ice and dive into the deep ocean. There, microbes that survived the catastrophe cling to refuges around scorching hydrothermal vents on the seafloor. Over countless generations, genetic changes accumulate. Some become more tolerant of the cold, more efficient at storing energy, and even begin forming cooperative groups, opening new possibilities for life to become more complex later on. 300 million years later, you open your eyes again, and volcanic activity has roared back to life. Across the planet, volcanoes pump enormous amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, driving the greenhouse effect sharply upward. The glaciers melt, the land breaks free, and the Huronian Glaciation finally comes to an end. No sooner has the ice retreated than a group of life forms unlike anything you have seen before quietly appears in the shallow sea. They are no longer just single cells hidden beneath a microscope. Some have grown several centimeters, even more than 10 centimeters across, with flattened bodies spread across the seafloor and forms that are beginning to differ noticeably from one another. This is the Francevillian bioto, one of Earth's earliest known experiments in building large bodies from many cells. But the experiment goes no further. As the environment changes once again, they eventually disappear from the fossil record, and the rise of complex life is left facing another very long wait. But evolution does not stop. Over the immense stretch of time that follows, an even more profound transformation quietly unfolds. An archaeal cell engulfs a bacterium but fails to digest it. The swallowed bacterium eventually becomes the mitochondrion, the energy-producing engine of complex cells. The mitochondria inside nearly every cell in your body are descendants of this ancient Proterozoic partnership. Later, life even learns how to date. Sexual reproduction appears, allowing genes to mix and recombine in entirely new ways, and giving evolution a powerful new engine. But Earth is nowhere near finished with ice. Around 1 billion years ago, the supercontinent Rodinia finishes assembling and then gradually begins to break apart. Its vast new coastlines expose more rock to weathering, which steadily draws carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Earth's insulating blanket begins to fail once again, and the Huronian Glaciation arrives. But deep beneath your feet, Earth's interior has never stopped moving. Greenhouse gases released by volcanoes keep accumulating until they finally melt the ice, temporarily freeing Earth from its frozen prison. But rock weathering is still going strong, and much of the carbon dioxide that has only just returned is drawn down again. Barely 10 million years later, the even harsher Huronian Glaciation follows close behind, plunging Earth into a frozen hell for the third time. Yet within these 2 rounds of extreme ice, single-celled life completes a crucial leap toward multicellularity. After more than 100 million years of volcanic activity, greenhouse gases once again rebuild Earth's thermal shield, and the Huronian Glaciation finally comes to an end. Meltwater pours off the continents, carrying enormous loads of nutrients into the ocean. Trace elements supplied by volcanic activity enrich the seawater even further, while atmospheric oxygen rises again, creating increasingly favorable conditions for the rapid expansion of multicellular life. More than 30 million years later, you dive into the shallow sea again, and the seafloor is finally becoming crowded. Large organisms visible to the naked eye spread out beneath you. Some look like long ribbons, others resemble broad, fan-shaped blades, and a few can even stand upright in the current. This is the Lantean biota. Most still look nothing like true animals, yet their multicellular bodies are already far more complex than those that came before. Over the next tens of millions of years, this experiment does not disappear again. Large organisms become more common. Their body forms grow increasingly diverse, and the once monotonous microbial seafloor gradually transforms into a new world occupied by soft-bodied life. Tens of millions of years later, you dive into the shallows once again and finally see with your own eyes a world of life visible to the naked eye, the Ediacaran biota. Meter-long Dickinsonia spread across the seafloor like soft rugs. Half-meter-tall Charnia sway gently in the water like pale feathers. And frond-shaped organisms weave a soft underwater forest across the seabed. They have no bones and no claws. Yet they pull life on Earth out of the microscopic world and into a new age visible to the naked eye, setting the stage for the Cambrian explosion.